and welcome to another episode of the Simply Connected podcast, your go-to spot for discovering new connections. On this week's episode, we chat with Meg, and we have a really fun conversation all around her journey with starting therapy and why she took that leap of faith. We talk about university versus college, so the pros and cons of each, and the struggle we sometimes face with finding a job after completing our post-secondary education. And we have a really fun conversation about alarm clocks and how we use them in our day-to-day lives, as well as throwing things way back to making landline phone calls. It's a really fun episode, and I can't wait for you to check it out. Hey, Meg.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
How's your week been?
Good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you for joining me for an episode of the Simply Connected podcast. I'm excited to dive in with you today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited too.
Awesome. We are going to start, like we start every episode, with the dreaded question, but it sets the stage, sets the foundation for everyone listening.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, Meg,
yes.
Tell me about yourself.
Oh, boy. Well, I'll give you I don't know, the summary. My name's Meg. My day job is in communications in education. I grew up here in Ottawa, as many of us have. Outside of work, I like to hang out with my friends. I hang out with my family. I like to do fitness. That's I guess the spark notes. Yeah.
I love it. And I feel like we're going to dive into kind of all of those topics, what you like to do, what you do for work, things like that. But let's start with a little bit of an easier question to ease into things. And has there been a recent high and a recent low in your life that you want to talk about?
So I feel like all of last year was really good, actually. I started therapy, which I should have done many, many years ago. And I actually just feel the most at peace, the most calm, the most content. It's almost boring because people are like, what's new? And I'm like, nothing, but it's good. I have no drama. I have no nothing. I just am really enjoying where I'm at in my life and everything's really good. And then on the other side, I would say winter is always really hard for me, but I've been trying to prioritize those things that make you feel good. So we did a spa day, and my little gym has a sauna, which I like to pretend that I'm at the beach when I'm there just to get through winter. So I mean, yeah, this year's been really cold, but it's okay. It's just part of the season.
Yeah, I feel like living in Canada and Ottawa, we always get the dreaded winter blues, and I feel like anything you can do to break up the monotony of the cold, dark, gray days. Yeah. So I love that you had a little impromptu spa day and treated yourself.
Yeah. And I feel like you would appreciate this. My dog is a winter dog. So before her, I was just oh, I hate winter, blah, blah, blah. But seeing her so excited, when it snows, she's oh my God, and loves her walks and is so excited that I feel like I enjoy winter more because she's in it. She's loving it. Yeah.
Wow. I feel like for me, my dog despises winter. So to have, I'm that's strange, but good, because also I feel like in order to get through winter, you kind of need a winter activity, even if that's
walking.
An exuberant dog who loves to be outside.
Yeah.
At least you're then outside with your dog.
Yeah.
I love it. And so the high of, I guess, last year and coming into this year, starting therapy. Good for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Just huge supporter of therapy over here.
Yeah.
What kind of was the tipping point for you to make that decision for yourself?
So at this point in my life, I just turned 30 last year. So I have kind of all of my goals are sort of family. I want to get married. I want to buy a house. I want to all the things that you're supposed to do, quote unquote. Not that everyone needs to. I know not everyone wants those things, but I do. So I was doing it for myself to prepare for marriage and being a mother eventually, because I want to show up in the best way that I can and make sure that I can communicate well on a good day, but communicate well when I'm super high strung and stressed for those challenges that are to come, hopefully, in the future. That might sound silly because, my partner and I, we've been together for 7 years. So people might say, what's the difference if you get married or not? Because you're already together. But it's just taking our communication to another level. So yeah, he's helped me a lot throughout the years, but he kind of is a third party might be helpful. And it also just is helpful for me to have someone to talk to work through my stresses and stuff rather than holding on to them. Just call my girl and, I pay for her, obviously, but it helps me. So,
yeah. And I feel like too, therapy is just a good sounding board, right? Whenever you could be having like internal conflict or external conflict, or you just need that, like you said, neutral third party to talk about how you're feeling.
Yeah, and she is neutral. Like I think some people expect to hear what they want to hear, but she would be like, actually, maybe you should reconsider your position here. Like, maybe you're wrong. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Sign of a good therapist, right? They're not there to side with you. They're there to give you that perspective.
Yeah.
So I feel like the ones who actually really try and push you out of your comfort zone and into maybe perspectives or ideas that you don't necessarily carry with you all the time.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good like change of scope.
Yeah, I agree.
And so you've been with your partner for 7 years?
Yes. We met when I was, right before I started college.
Okay.
Yeah. And now I'm like into my career. I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, that's crazy. Like just the steps that have changed in my life from where we were to now.
Yeah. And do you mind my asking how you guys met?
We used to work together. We were in this like side part-time job that kind of didn't really mean anything, and we became friends from that. Started hanging out outside of work in a group, and then eventually the group became him and I, and then we started hanging out one-on-one as friends. He's not a big texter, so we spent a lot of time on the phone. So it's like funny because I was living with my parents at this time, and my mom is so intuitive. Like she was like, who are you talking to? You're so animated on the phone. I was like, it's just a friend. And then I was explaining like one day we were going to the art gallery, and she's like, that's a date. And I was like, no. And then on that date we were like, oh, like I think, feelings are starting, blah blah blah. We talked about it, and then like 2 or 3 weeks later I was like, oh yeah, Mom, remember that guy we're dating? And she goes, I know, I told you that.
Mom called it first.
Okay, great, good talk. Yeah.
I love that your first date was an art gallery. That's so special.
Yeah.
What do you guys like as you've grown together throughout the last 7 or so years? What is it about him that you like, that you love? What do you guys like to do together?
Yeah. So we really like comedy. So before COVID, we were big on going to like amateur comedy shows. And then through the pandemic, I keep saying that we finished Netflix because I feel like we watched every special that's out there. Sometimes they hit and sometimes they don't, but laughter is really important for us. And we just connected on the way that we speak and talk to each other. At that time, he was looking to be more open with people, and he felt comfortable to do that with me. So, and then things just kind of escalated from there. We really like good food and going out. We live in Centertown on purpose because it's a walking distance from, the culinary scene. And yeah, he's like my best friend and everything. I feel like every time I talk about him, I'm like, oh, he's perfect. And people think that I'm like joking, but I'm like, literally, no, he's amazing. So
you found your soulmate.
Hopefully. Yeah.
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 And when you see yourself, you mentioned you want to get married and have children and whatnot. When you look to your future with him, how do you see that unfolding?
Yeah. So we're actually planning to buy a house this year. Like actively about to do the paperwork very soon. So I'm like trying not to get too excited because he keeps saying we can't celebrate until it's like come to fruition and we have the thing. But I can't keep my mouth shut, so I just keep talking about it because it's really exciting.
That is a way of manifesting. You're just constantly putting it out there.
Yeah, well, for a while it just felt really conceptual and kind of like someday, and now we're like closer than we've ever been. So really hoping that pans out this year. Marriage isn't really a rush. It's kind of whenever. So, and then there's a good chance that we may have children before we get married just because of timing and age and stuff. And yeah, we'll see what happens. But first step, house, hopefully.
House.
So, yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
Well, fingers crossed that unfolds for you.
Thank you.
And I know you're also an aunt to a couple little ones.
Yes. Yeah. I have 4 nieces on my side, and on Alex's we have 2 nephews, so 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've seen pictures, but you love spending time with them.
Yeah. I mean, there's just a different joy from them because like everything is silly and they're always laughing and just like they want to play make believe, and it's just fun, and I love being around them. I feel like renewed when I'm with them.
And hanging out with kids too kind of brings you back to your own childhood, right? Like you get their innocence, but you get their playfulness and joy. And like you said, to them, everything's funny and there's so much imagination and make believe. And you get to kind of almost like disconnect from your day-to-day life and just be in the world of a kid and see it through their eyes and come back to those joys.
Yeah, well, because they don't care. They don't care about what's happening in politics or what's happening in the world. They don't care about that. They don't care about your job. They're just like, oh, you're here, play with me, great. And you're
Right.
like, okay.
Yeah, here's the blocks, let's go.
Yeah, I'm always on the floor playing with them. And sometimes I look up and they've gone away and I'm like, oh, I'm still building a tower. That's fine.
And so when you think about the time you spend with your nieces and nephews and family and things like that, how would you have described yourself as a kid growing up?
The same, I think my siblings would probably say that I've always been talkative. My brother and I are twins. When I started kindergarten, my mom said I just spoke for him. He wants this, because like I just knew. And then they were like, that's great, but he needs to talk. And I was like, are you sure? Because I think I know.
I got this down.
Yeah. And I feel like I've always been a bit outspoken, and sometimes that's gotten me in trouble, but I've learned how and when to use that the best, I guess. I've learned to listen more and talk less. Like I feel like some parts of me are very much the same. Like, just kind of what's that phrase? Dancing to the beat of my own drum.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I had it there.
I think you went for it and then you like second guessed it. And
yeah.
You're like, and did you and your brother go through, like, as twins, did you go through like school together, or were you? I know sometimes, like for me, there was a couple sets of twins growing up, and as they got older, they like intentionally separated them into separate classrooms. Yeah. Did you and your brother get to grow together, or were you close when you were young? Or
so we had sometimes when we were in the same class and sometimes when we weren't. My mom specifically said to the principal when she was assigning classes, like, they are two individual people, so it doesn't matter, they'll be fine either way. We had different friends, but it was always kind of nice to have someone close by, like if you're having a bad day and that they're around. Yeah, I mean, we actually went to different high schools because I went to the art school in Ottawa here, and he went to the neighboring school.
Okay.
So, yeah, very different friend groups, and he had like normal every day, and I was doing ballet all day, every day. So, yeah.
And so going to the art school, did you anticipate having a career or like a future in some type of art, or?
I don't know. Like, I think I thought about it, but then there was a point when I realized the talent that was around me, even that age, they were so talented, some of them. And I was like, I just know that I'm not at that level, nor can I get there in time to like start my career at 18 or whatever. So I just kind of knew that it wasn't for me. Like, I loved it, but then I also felt like if it was my job, then maybe I would love it less. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was really fun, but I not my career path.
No.
Yeah.
So leaving school, did you go to post-secondary?
I did twice.
Okay. And
I took the long way around.
I mean, you get where you're going, right? Yeah. And what did you take there?
So I actually think they like, I have a story that I think you would really like. So my guidance counselor in high school said, what's your favorite subject? And I said, dance. But I don't want to be a dancer. Okay, great. What's your second favorite? Gym. Okay, be a gym teacher. And I just took that and was like, okay, that's not very good advice for careers. I didn't really even look at other options. And I don't know if you felt this way, but I was like in the university stream of courses. So it was like frowned upon to even look at college, which is dumb because I ended up there anyway, and it's way more practical for careers. So anyway, I went to university first to become a gym teacher. First year, fun. Second year, still having fun, but I was like, oh, I don't know about this. By the third year, I was like, this is definitely not for me. And then like the other stream that you could go would be the science-based, like physiotherapy, that kind of thing. And I was like, well, the science part is really hard. I'm not good at that. So I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I had a manager at the school. I worked for the school in a student position in social media and events, like different roles. Like 1 year was one contract, 1 year was another contract, whatever. Like they were like, yeah, we like you. You keep coming back, whatever. So I had a manager who really believed in me, and it was exactly what I needed at this moment. He was like, Megan, I think you're really good at this. I think you should consider doing this as your career. And I was like, doing what? And he was like, social media, PR. I had never even heard of PR at that point. I was like, I don't know what that means. And also, like, for the timing and because of my age, social media was like Instagram just came out end of high school into university. It wasn't like you could be on Instagram as a career because it had just happened, right? So I was like, I don't know what any of this is, whatever. So he was like, I really think you should consider it. And I'm glad that I took that advice. I researched it, got into college, and then was like, I want to be sure, because I felt like I just took 4 years and like wasted it basically. So I got in and then deferred for another year, just to make sure that I was really sure. And then I did the PR program in college, and then I was like, wow, this does feel like the right fit. It was like one person said something at the right time where I needed to hear it, and I was like, okay, great, I found my way now. And it's not quite that simple, but he really had a big impact on me.
Yeah. And I'll say that teachers come up a lot on this podcast.
Yeah.
Just we love teachers, and I find it so. No, you're good. Better? Okay. No, you're good. Empowering that teachers are there to help guide us, right? But it's almost like you need to find your teacher or your mentor, because to your point of the guidance counselor who kind of like asked you one question, was like, okay, we'll be a gym teacher, and just like kind of shooed you out of the office space. It's like, I get that they're seeing like 200 some students who have these kinds of questions and things like that, but like that doesn't help you, right? And I think back to like my guidance oh my god
guidance counselor. Okay,
guidance
we knew
counselor?
what you're saying.
We got it out.
Two
in high school,
Yeah.
and I went kind of half and half. I did university stream and college stream in the topics that I just didn't care about. So like math and science, we're just like, no, I just need to get through these topics. And I knew from high school that math and science weren't areas that I was going to have a career in. Right? I was very much more arts, writing, literature, things like that. And upon meeting him, he kind of asked me similar questions, and he's like, okay, well, I would go to college. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm like, but why not university? He's like, I just don't think university is for you. Okay. So didn't really give me a reason why. I knew a lot of my family members had never been to college or university. They just went straight into the workplace. And I'm like, you know what?
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to university just because it was in my personality to do the opposite of what someone told me to do.
Of course.
So I went to university, and I took, I want to say like psychology, whatever, like
intro.
Intro to psych. I'm like, cool, that's what we're doing. Went there. Great experience overall. Hated like the learning atmosphere. And I was just like, oh, this is not for me. And took some time, switched, went to college, and ended up like taking programs in my field. And the teachers I met at college just like nurtured the students in such a different way. And I get university and college are very different learning environments, but from essentially kind of being a number in university to being with peers and being with collaborators and supporters in the college atmosphere, I just like flourished there and really like loved that experience so much too. So I think bringing it back, just like finding the right people to push you in the direction that you're meant to go, I think is just huge.
Well, I mean, we're talking about connection. People and connection go hand in hand, right? And like I don't know about you, but I still have keeping contact with some of my teachers, and they're always like posting jobs or, you know, thinking of people and reaching out. And I feel like too, you build those connections, and if they're maintained or just kind of always there in the background, there's always those people who continue to look out for you or send you jobs or send you recommendations and things like that. And so your journey in PR and comms and marketing, how did that unfold for you? So you went to school, you got the paper. I did, but I have a story before I went to school. And again, right time, right place, just somebody who took a chance on me. And I feel like you would like this story. So the summer before college, I'm like, I just need money. I just need money because I know I have to pay tuition. And I was just trying to do it like all on my own. So I was serving at a golf course. Most of the time I was in like the banquet hall, like the dining hall. But this day, for whatever reason, they're like, you're going on this hole to serve beer. And I was like, no problem. This is like the easiest job. So it was a tournament, corporate something. This woman comes over and she's like, oh, you're young. Like, are you a student? And I said, I'm about to be. I'm going into PR. And she's like, oh, okay. Is that what you want to do? And I said, yes. And then she goes, okay, great. So my friend is hiring an intern. Maybe you should email them. Here's my card. I was like, okay. So I email her. She goes, yep, here's the other person's email, the connection. Okay. And then I emailed them my resume. Hey, I'm so-and-so. This is my experience. And luckily I already had a bit of experience from when I was at the university before. And they interviewed me, liked me, and I got that internship before starting college. So I quit the golf course and then was there for, I think it was only 8 weeks, like July and August. And I was like, what are the odds that would just line up that way? My partner is a big Simpsons fan, and he has a phrase of saying, in the show, it's everything's coming up Millhouse, like everything's working for you. So he's always like, everything's coming up Megan. Like he just, and I'm like, yeah, I don't even know how that all unfolded, but I did it, and I really enjoyed it. And that was kind of like my start of being like, okay, I think I'm on the right path, because they had me working on things like newsletters and a couple social posts and just like really minor things that summer. And then I went to school and it was like, yeah, anyway, I'm like, what are the odds of like some random person at a golf course who I don't know was like, I'm going to take a chance on you, or I'm going to connect you. And I was like, wow.
Divine timing.
Yeah.
Divine timing.
Yeah.
And there's connections everywhere.
Yeah.
There's connections everywhere. And had you not met that person, chances are the trajectory of this path, or your path, would have been completely different.
Yeah. It could have been. Yeah. Yeah. Like, so after that I had, oh my gosh, sorry. Maybe my head's just little.
Could be.
Sorry. God, I'm such a professional. I'm so sorry. Okay. I think that's better.
Better?
I think so.
I like it. We can leave these parts in.
So I went through college, and then I had a couple other internships. So one was like between first and second year, and then there was another one that was like mandatory for placement in the last semester. So by the time I finished college, I had like 3 different internships, and then experience doing social media for a yoga studio, and working at the university, and all these things that sort of add up to like a greater picture. So I did get a job right out of college, and I remember people saying, how did you do that? And I like, maybe they just don't know all my experience, right? Because on paper it looks like, oh, you just got lucky. And I'm like, well, and I used to think that like, oh, I just got lucky. And then I was like, no, I actually did work really hard if you look at all the things that I've done. And like going back to teachers, like having a good rapport with your teachers and using them as a reference makes a big difference as well. Like my first year of college, sweatpants, right? By the second year, I was like, you know what, I'm going to take this more seriously. Like I started wearing blazers to school, like
Wow.
a little...
Yeah.
I'm a little professional. Like I remember I had this pink blazer, and there was a day that I was walking through the P building, which is like paramedic and stuff, and they're all in uniform, and they were like, who is this girl? She's like, I'm going to do great things.
You dress for the job you want.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, it's a combination of working hard, right time, right place, good people who believe in you and take a chance on you.
Yeah. And I feel like knowing what I know about you too, like you put yourself out there, right? You don't kind of just sit back and wait for these things to happen. So even though they kind of lined up in a way, you were still saying yes to things, right? Like you could have taken that business card and been like, oh, like whatever, threw it out or shoved it away, right? But you're like, no, this is an opportunity. Yeah. Like I'm going to see what happens from it.
Yeah. The worst that happens is, I know people say the worst that happens is they can say no, but I think really the worst is that you get no answer. Because people don't usually even just say no, which is fine. But
I feel like nowadays it's getting more common to not even reply.
The ghost.
The ghosting, right?
Yeah.
And it's always like, well, just give me the answer.
Yeah. Or it's like in their application process of like, we will only contact successful people. And you're like, okay, great.
Yeah. So you're like, oh, I'll never hear from you.
Great. Yeah. I always feel like job applications in this day and age are like the internet is just like a black hole. Like it's, and I'm like, did anyone even read it? I don't know.
I even felt like that when the internet was kind of like new and you had to start submitting. Because I remember my very first job, I like walked in and gave my stapled application resume to like so and so. But then like technology, right? It evolved, and you had to start submitting online, and it was like, unless you use the keywords, like your resume is not even going to get onto the person's desk.
Yeah, because it's an algorithm.
Yeah, and even now I feel like there's probably so many applicants for jobs. I'm just like, is my application just like floating out there in like a black hole of the internet?
Yeah.
Like you don't even know. So I still feel like too, sometimes it's about, you can submit online, but I also think it's about the connections that right? Like to get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
And I know for me, like in my job now, I had applied for this job, I want to say like 8 times.
Yeah.
8 times, because I can go back and see it now that like I'm in like the portal.
Yeah.
And the 9th time, the time I got the job, was because I had a connection and I sent it all to them, and then they provided like a good word for me.
Yeah. See, I kind of feel the same, because my current role was always my end goal. I started in different positions, but I wanted to get to the job I'm in now. So I had 3 different positions before that internally. And then also I'd interviewed for this role, I think 2 different times, when they were like, someone else is more experienced, someone is whatever. And I was like, okay, no problem. But then I remember I went back to one of my managers and I said, this is my goal. Can you help me get there? And he was very helpful again. And just the mentorship part of like, yeah, here's what you can do. And here's how I'm going to coach you in your writing and this and that. And I was like, okay, great. And part of it is also like being open to criticism, because if you can't take criticism, then you're never going to improve. So you have to just know that this is business and not personal. Like, you never want to be like, oh, I know everything. No, I'm never going to know everything. And also I wouldn't want to feel like I've hit a ceiling this early. I'm only 30, so
you still got plenty of room to grow.
Yeah. If you're the smartest person in the room, then you need a bigger room with smarter people. Room.
Yeah. See? Yeah, I've heard that so many times, and it's so true. It's so true that, well, like you just said it, but neither of us never want to be the smartest person in the room. So it's like, change the room.
Yep. 100%. Yeah.
And what is it about comms and marketing and PR that you love?
Writing, storytelling. The position I'm in now, it covers many different areas in education, like different departments, as well as like sometimes student or alumni stories. And I just love hearing what's going on and hearing people's successes. So for example, like I just covered, there was culinary students who went and did this professional championship. So the chefs competing are professionals, and then we sent 60 of our students to support them, and like talking to them and hearing how excited they were and getting that experience. Like I'm just like, oh yeah, I just love this. People are doing good things and it's exciting, and yeah, it's rewarding. Like convocation is probably my favorite time of year, because I just think it's so fun and it's so emotional and everyone is excited. And like there was one year I was there, and I was like, didn't I see you yesterday? And he was like, oh, that was my brother. Today's my turn. I was like, that's so exciting. Aww. You get to like celebrate together, like things like that. Yeah. Like hearing those stories. Or like there was a couple that came in with like the school's name and then mom and dad. And I was like, oh, that's so nice. And then they're like, we have to retire these shirts because you won't be a student anymore. I was like, oh.
I mean, you can still wear them. Right. Proudly say your child graduated from.
Yeah. Or my favorite is, I'm sure you've heard when you're at the event, if someone's crossing the stage and then you hear, that's my dad, that's my mom. And you're like, oh, so I know. Sweet.
I feel like the cheering at convocation is one of my favorite things, especially like when it's quieter, or say like they don't have as many people there for them or whatnot. Yeah. And it's just like the woo from like way back in the crowd. It's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, these people showed up.
Yeah.
It's the best.
I'm such a woo girl. I had to tell you, literally yesterday I went for brunch with my friends, and then we look over at the bar and there's like a camera and they're doing a photo shoot, and then we see like the glisten of her ring sparkling. I was like, oh, this is an engagement shoot, and we are sitting there just wanting to be like, woo, like you go. Don't know her at all. We're like, you're doing great, you look stunning. Like we just, we want to root for everyone, cheer them on.
Yeah. And I'm sure she appreciated that in the moment, because
from a distance we were like, you go girl.
Yeah, you got this.
Yeah.
Do you knowing that you love to write and share these stories for students and alumni and whatnot in your job, do you like to write or do anything like that in your personal life?
I used to have a running blog. So I actually started running back to therapy. My first therapist was in the university I was at. And so there was like, you're only allowed X amount of sessions, and then they time out basically, because they have to make sure they have capacity for all students, which is like, I was grateful, but I was like, oh, I really needed more at that time. But anyway, she said, you know, I would recommend giving yourself an outlet for your anxiety and stuff, and like do something that turns your brain off. And for me, it was like, if I run really fast for a long time, it all goes away. I don't know what happens, but it disappears. So I ran a lot in university. I used to run half marathons, and then I did only one full, just to say that I did. And now I'm like, I don't need to ever run a marathon again. But at that time, I was writing about running and stuff as well. My friends would always joke like, "Oh, you're trying to be a fitness influencer." But then I just kind of stopped because I don't know. I part of me wanted part of my privacy back. Like part of me was like, I like writing, but do I need to share all the things, or can I keep some of it private? And I think that's a hard balance with social media, right? Like I love sharing, but then I'm also like, it's weird that people can just be like, I know this about you because of what you posted online, right?
True.
And I'm chronically online. I think everyone knows that. So yeah, I don't really anymore, but I used to. I feel like my next move, if I had a personal project, would be actually something like this, podcasting.
Little podcast.
Yeah. So like during COVID, I did a few event moderator. I was moderating events like through Zoom that were virtual. So I recently reached out to a couple people and was like, hey, if you need an MC, like let me know. Like I think I enjoy that part, public speaking. And yeah, obviously I could talk, but I part of me is just like, you know, do I want to put in the work to doing my own thing? And then also I'm wary of like topics where you could pigeonhole yourself and run out of things to say. It doesn't happen very often, but it could if you were like super niche, for example.
Fair. But I also feel like too, knowing you and your personality, you could probably chat to anyone about anything. So even if you weren't to like pigeonhole yourself and say a specific niche topic.
Thank you. I consider that a superpower.
Oh, it is 100%.
Yeah. My partner said, you can make friends with a lamppost. And I was like, nice.
100%. I remember the day I met you and you were just so easy to talk to. Like you still are. Like I feel like whenever we talk or connect, which sadly isn't very often because we're never on campus at the same time, but like it's just it flows easily. And I feel like to credit you, it's because you have such like an easygoing approach to these things, and you're approachable and you're open and you're just like wanting to talk.
Yeah. Well, like I was thinking about this. I feel like I show up as the same version of myself, whether you met me at work or you met me wherever. It's just that the work one, obviously I try to be like slightly filtered and not use my like inherently crass sense of humor. Like I try to not do that at work, but I've slipped a couple times and people are like, excuse me. And I'm like, that was a joke. Yeah.
No, but that's true. You are right. You show up authentically, I think, in all senses of the word. And
thank you.
That's an admirable quality.
Well, I got really into Brene Brown in the in COVID. She had 2 podcasts at that time, and then I've also read some of her books, and she talks a lot about vulnerability and being authentic. And yeah, she's one of my people that I'm like, I don't know how she figures things out, but she just articulates things really well. And when I listened to her podcast, it felt like she was like my personal therapist almost, you know?
Oh yeah. My therapist likes to quote Brene Brown a lot, and recommended a couple of Brene Brown books that I have read. And it's, I feel like Brene Brown is just like up here standard wise, like just in terms of how she speaks. And when I listen to her, I'm like, oh, you're talking to me. Yeah. You're talking directly at me.
Yeah.
I'm like, it took, like everyone said this, but it took me listening to you for me to be like, okay, I'll give that a try.
Sometimes the third party makes all the difference, right? Like it's like when your mom says something and then a friend says the same thing and you're like, oh, you like take it differently because it's from a different perspective. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And okay, so you had a blog that you don't really use anymore. Mm-hmm. What would you say are kind of your go-tos for keeping yourself grounded in an ever-changing atmosphere?
That's interesting because this is something I've been working on a lot in the last year, actually, with my therapist. There was another guest who was talking about people pleasing and boundaries. So for me, it's so easy to say yes, yes, yes to all the things because I'm such an extrovert. Yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll be out every day of the week. And for me, grounding is like actively saying no and saying, I can't do that, or I need time with my partner, or I need time to be alone. People sometimes don't think that I need alone time. And I do, just like everybody else. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I could see them slowly slipping backwards.
Like, normally I have a big head.
Is it the cable? Try switch, like flip them. I don't know if it's the cable or not, but
I don't think they go smaller.
No, because you have them all the way down. That's so funny. I
Sorry.
can see them too. They were like tipping.
I know.
And
I'm
you tried
like,
to catch it, and then you're like, "Did I get?"
What was I saying? What was I talking about? Oh yeah, being grounded. Sorry. Yeah, so I have to actively carve out time for myself and say no to things, and I've gotten really good at that. And then also not feeling guilty for saying no. I think everyone in my life is pretty understanding, especially when I'm like, I'm just doing too much. And then they're like, okay. You know?
I feel like we're a society of doers. Like, in order to actively say no and listen to yourself, like, that's hard.
Yeah.
And in a society where it's kind of the norm to be busy all the time, to be going, to be rushing, to be stacking your schedule. Yeah. I feel like it shows more compassion and self-care when you can be like, you know what, I'm burnt out. I overcommitted myself. I need space. I need time away. Or you're more maybe authentically picking who you're hanging out with in those moments, or like you said, prioritizing your relationships and things like that. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like, to your point of like needing that space and that grounding, it takes a lot to be able to acknowledge that for yourself.
Yeah. I also go through bouts of like taking myself off social media for a bit, just because otherwise, again, I feel like I'm like either doom scrolling or like too caring about what people are doing. And I'm like, I need to not focus on that, focus on myself, especially this time of year, because it's like people on vacation on the beach, and I'm like, I don't need to see that.
And the
when I'm here in the winter is
I don't know about you, but for me, when I catch myself scrolling, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or whatever, my like overall mental health plummets.
Oh, 100%.
Like,
yeah, like I'll be like, I'm feeling low today, and my partner will say, okay, what did you do? Okay, I lied in the bed and then I scrolled, and he's like, and did that help? And I'm like, no. Turns out it didn't help.
No, an hour went by and I was just like, how did I lose an hour? So I've actively like locked all of my social media platforms. After 10 minutes, I give myself 10 minutes a day on all of them.
Good. Yeah.
And it's not like sufficient enough. I think there's like another app you can download that does lock them. I just use like the built-in one on the phone. But say I reach the 10 minutes on Instagram, I can, if I open it and it's like your 10 minutes has been maxed, do you want to bypass? It's just like a simple yes to bypass it.
But it's still like some sort of like safety guard.
Yeah. So usually if that pops up, and I'm pretty good for the most part now about like being like, okay, no, like there's a reason I put this on there, and stepping back. There's like a handful of times where I'm just like, I'm going to completely ignore this because this is just the mood I'm in. Yeah. But I find that, actively locking my social platforms has been a great boundary for me. And like sometimes I miss the 20 memes or messages that come in a group chat from Instagram, but I'm like, you know what? If they really needed me, you could find me another way. Yeah. So whatever it is, it can wait, because clearly I need some space right now.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. And like, it's also the people around you. So like, I'm not on Snapchat anymore because I just kind of grew out of it. Like once Instagram got stories, I was like, wow, it's the same. I'd rather just be in one place. But when I was on it, you know, in like, I don't know, 2017 or whatever, I remember there was times I'd be out with my friends and I would post like several stories through the night. And my sister, with love, was like, it's like a play-by-play of your night. Like she was like, put your phone away and just have fun with your friends. And that might sound harsh, but I was like, she's right. And every time she said that, I was like, oh, yep, she was right. Like, yeah, you should just be focused on the present moment and enjoying those people's company.
Yeah, it's true. And I 100% agree, like hear what your sister's saying there, but I find it hard now too, navigating that balance. Like, because I love to take the pictures. Like, I love the pictures. And people say, like, whether it's like losing a loved one or time passing or whatever it is, it's like, take the pictures so you have the memories.
Of course, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, fair. But I'm like, maybe I don't need to post them all for the world to see. Yeah. Right? So it's like finding that balance, but just allowing yourself to be in that moment.
Yeah. Or I sometimes will take the photos and post them like 3 hours later once I'm already at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I tend to do that too.
Yeah. Just because, you know, if you want to like change the font and do the this and the that and whatever, the editing of the story, or find the perfect song, yeah, you can do that later.
Snip it at the right spot.
Oh, that's so annoying. Like, can you not just read my mind? Like,
I'm like, these are the lyrics I want. Find it in the song.
Yeah.
Okay. So grounding.
Yes.
Taking space.
Yes.
What kind of things do you do for yourself in those moments of taking space?
I'm trying to read more, but I haven't been that successful because I always reach for the phone. Spending time with my partner, one-on-one time. I like to go to the gym. That really helps get all my inner demons out. I call it like rage working out. You know, you're just like, ah, and then it feels better. I really like to take like a hot bath, like probably once a week, Sundays. Today's Sunday. You know, and just like really mellow out. Yeah, turning my phone off really helps me. And sometimes I'll just, you know, put it away, or like I'll leave it charging and then I'm like in a different room in the house and like, you know, it's okay to leave it for a few hours, you know.
Question. Are you a phone alarm clock? Do you bring the phone to the bedroom?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know. I feel like you're going to be like, that's so bad for you. And everyone's going to say that. But I'm like, how else am I supposed to get up? It has my clock
No, I
on
do it too.
If I didn't do that, I would sleep in every day. And we can't have that. So yeah.
I mean, I do it. I just recently got an alarm clock. And
old school.
I got like a, you know, like the hatch, but like a dupe, not like the actual hatch. And oh my God, I will say, like,
did it change your life?
It changed my life.
Like, that sounds dramatic. Like, actually changed your life?
It did, because bring my phone to the bedroom, plug it in on the nightstand. That was my alarm. Like, the iPhone blare, like, the alarm sound that comes with the phone. Like, I never changed it. It's that.
Oh, mine is like birds. It's like and you're like, oh, morning. It's
mine
like
is the cringeworthy one that comes on the
phone
phone that I just never changed.
Okay.
And I was a chronic snoozer, and
I do that too.
They say like you're not supposed to snooze because it makes you even more tired. But I would set my alarm maybe for 20 minutes before I had to get up and snooze every 5 minutes, and then sleep past when I had to get up. So it would take me probably 40 to 45 minutes to actually get up in the morning with my phone on my nightstand hitting snooze.
Yeah, mine's probably like 30.
Yeah. And I would wake up tired. So I got this alarm clock, and I set it up across my room, so it's on like my dresser.
Okay.
And it has all like the features or whatever. So you pick how bright you want the sun. It has like, I don't know, 5 or 6 sounds that you can wake up to. So like waves or birds or sound bowls or things like that. And then you pick the time you want your sunrise to be. So I tried it, and I'm like, we're going to give this a chance. And so the sun starts to rise 30 minutes before the alarm goes off.
I like that.
So when the first few times when I would wake up, I set it to birds. I would hear the birds chirping, and it would wake me up calmly, not the iPhone blaring alarm.
Right.
But
not you're immediately in stress, like fight or flight when you have it, because it's like
yeah. But then my room would be full on bright. Like the sun would be at the highest peak of the day. And it took some time to like get adjusted to, but now I've caught myself. It's been just over a month with this alarm clock that I've started to wake up before.
Okay, I was gonna say I can never wake up before an alarm. Like if you asked me when I got here if I like to sleep in, today I didn't set an alarm and I'll just sleep. But I find the sunrise is really hard because in the summer you could naturally do it, but in the winter it's still dark out at like 7 a.m. Like that's late.
That's why maybe it's like this mimicking of the sun, but now like my eyes will open, I would say like 10-15 minutes before the alarm goes off, but the room is starting to get brighter, and then I register. I was like, okay, my alarm is going to go off soon. So like I will still doze a little bit, but when the birds start chirping, I'm like, okay, time to get up. And I don't reach for my phone anymore, because I guess that was part 2 of when I would finally, like, the snooze would end and I'd be like, okay, I have to get up. I'd start scrolling on Instagram and use my 10 minutes up before I even got out of bed.
Yeah.
So yes, anyway, this sunrise alarm clock, game changer.
I'm like waiting for like the pan to the camera of like, actually this episode's sponsored by this alarm clock. So
this episode is sponsored by Philips alarm clock.
I was gonna say, if you had a discount code, you just sold me on it. So, yeah.
Everyone buy this alarm clock. We spent like 10 minutes of this episode discussing
But it sounds great. It sounds like it's really helped you. It sounds like you're waking up in a more peaceful state, which I think really changes how you start the day.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I feel like the whole regulation of the nervous system is like top priority for me this year, because I feel like it's been so out of whack. So
yeah,
step 1, this alarm clock.
Amazing. I love that.
And let's continue talking about comms and marketing and all that, because I feel like it's such a huge area to talk about, but I'm curious to know your take on working in the industry, but also being a lover of the phone and all things technology. How has it played like a part in your life, positive or negative?
So in roles where I was managing social media, but they didn't give me a phone, it's really challenging to turn it off. Luckily, now I have a separate device for work that's given to me. And that makes actually a huge difference because I can put that away and like only want to see my social stuff or like my personal stuff and not getting like work notifications. Yeah. It's definitely helpful to have a second device. So I'm grateful for that. I feel like even when I'm taking a break from Instagram or something for personal use, I can obviously still do my job. They're very different, right? Like my social personal is just like selfies and memes. It's just stupid. I love just people be like, you're so unhinged, and I'm like, I love being unhinged. Thank you. Like our other friend Sam, right? She was like, oh, I'm seeing like a whole different side of you on here because she finds things and then it'll say Megan like this, and I'm like, no, you didn't say anything. You didn't say. That's what I mean though. It's like my sense of humor tends to be like a bit unhinged, but anyway, yeah.
There are a couple that pop up that
see them
that
too.
That say Meg liked them, and I'm like, huh, okay. Because sometimes I'll think because like you send me a lot of memes, and like I don't send a lot of memes, and I'm like, oh, but then I'll see something like that, and I'm like, oh, Meg would like this, but then I'm like, oh, she's already seen it.
I still appreciate the thought.
Because you're like one of the first few up there, and I'm like, well, I tried. I had the thought.
Yeah. How
do you think technology has affected our ability to connect with people?
That's such a hard question because in some ways you're connecting more than ever, but then in some ways it's like more superficial and less deep, I guess. Like on TikTok, I never opened a TikTok. I never had one because I'm already addicted to Instagram. So, but like you could see whatever you want to see, whatever you want to learn about, you could see there. But it's like, are you really connecting with the people that you actually know in your life? So it's a double-edged sword. I think it takes a balance. I was talking about this with someone recently, actually. It's like because of our age, we were brought up in a time with, I think, almost more media literacy because Facebook was really new, for example, when we were like preteens, teenagers, of like, okay, this is the harms of social media, this is that, whatever. I don't know because I'm not a parent, but I feel like they don't teach that anymore, and it's just like, here you go, and it's a free-for-all, and people not understanding like the harms of social media. Yeah, but on the same hand, you can have a podcast and reach anybody in the world. I have friends who live in other provinces, and we do like voice notes because it feels more personal than a text, but it's not immediate the way a phone call is. So like it's my voice, but you can listen to it anytime. She's like, oh, on today's episode of Meg's podcast, and I'm like, you're welcome. It's like something stupid that I'm like telling her about. Yeah, but so it's nice to connect with friends like that way, or the same friend actually was running a half marathon today, and she was like, oh, I'm making a playlist, can you collab on it? And I didn't even know you could do group like collaboration for playlists on Spotify. And I was like, oh, this is so fun. Like I get to feel included and involved even though I'm all the way over here. I also listened to it today. I was cleaning, she was running, and I was like, good playlist, I approve.
Oh, it's so fun. My sister and I discovered that, I want to say like last year or the year before, that you can collab on Spotify, and so we have a joint playlist that we're just constantly adding songs to that we hear that we know each other will like. So then when we need like a playlist, it's just on, and it's like a repertoire of new songs and old songs and good songs, and just like it's growing so much now. And then also I feel like technology has made me feel closer to my family. For example, they send updates of the kids probably every day or every other day, so you can see in real time like this is what they had for dinner, this is what they whatever, and it's really nice to feel included that way, but on the same token, I'm like, what's it going to be like when they're teenagers, you know? I don't know. I feel like it's definitely a double-edged sword, right? Like it's good for connection, especially maintaining maybe those more long distance connections, but at the same time, like I think about maybe like when we were kids growing up, how it wasn't yet a thing. Like I think Facebook was. Do you remember like being like, okay, I'll be home at this time, bye, and you just leave? Like there was no way for them to check on you because there was no cell phones, or like my parents would ask for like the landline number of my friends, but if we were like at the park, I don't know, they're out, they'll be back whenever. Like Yeah. I remember
there was like almost a freedom with it that you don't have now.
Yeah. You just like left the house and you were
Unreachable.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, that's to our podcast.
That's a wrap.
Yeah. Done. No, but you're right. Like you would leave the house, and it was back in the day when your parents needed like the phone number of whoever's house you were going to. So
yeah,
if they needed, or they would need to like call and speak to your friend's parents before you went over.
Oh my God. Did you ever have people calling the landline phone at your house, like a boy or something, and you're like, oh my God, and you can hear like your mom in the other room like picking up like the cordless one, and you're like, oh, get off the
right,
no
or you
privacy.
Try and eavesdrop and just like cover the mouthpiece so they didn't hear you breathing in the phone while you were eavesdropping.
Yeah, like our landline was like in the living room. Like that's fully, you might as well be on speakerphone, you know?
I remember so my high school best friend and I, we could see each other all day, and then we'd call each other on the landline at night. Like every night we talked for like an hour and a half. Yeah. And I remember there was one night where I called her after dinner and she didn't answer, and I don't leave voicemails. So like hung up, and then I was like, that's weird, why didn't she answer? So I called again, probably like 2 minutes later, and then she didn't answer, and I was so impatient that I called again. I think I called maybe like 10 times and didn't leave a voicemail.
You're like a bad boyfriend.
I know, until finally her dad answered the phone and was like, we're eating dinner.
What do you want? Yeah.
We're eating dinner. Can she call you back?
Yeah,
and I was
fair.
like, yeah, sure, no problem. And then our parents ended up talking, and they were like, Lauren's not allowed to call our house anymore. Like, she will have to call her when she's done dinner.
No.
Yeah.
You got in like phone jail.
Yeah, pretty much. I was impatient, and I'm still impatient.
I think that's like the highest level of yapper you could be.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why isn't she answering the phone?
I was probably like that too. I remember talking on the phone. I used to talk on the phone with my next door neighbor. She literally lived beside me, and I'd be like, hey girl, what's up?
Yeah. I mean, that's like the era of growing up. My other best friend, she used to live in the house across the street from me, and her bedroom was in the front of the house facing the street, but my parents' bedroom was in the front of the house. But I'd like go to their window, and we'd scream across the street at each other through
like
the
the
open
Taylor
windows.
Swift video with the cards.
Yes,
literally. That's so funny.
And we wouldn't just walk across the street, or we wouldn't call. We would just scream at the top of our lungs across.
Yeah, that's like the definition of like a stone's throw away. Like you could literally. Yeah. That's so funny.
Oh man, I love it. Okay, we're almost done.
Okay,
we're gonna end with a few rapid fire questions.
Oh boy. Okay.
And let's start with last movie or TV show you watched, because I'm always adding things to my list. I just finished. I'm late to the game, but I was watching Ozark.
Oh, we really liked that.
Yeah. So now that it's off my list, I'm like, let's revert to the list that people have been adding to.
What kind of things do you like?
I like anything.
Okay, well, I watch a lot of true crime.
Okay.
So I just finished the OJ case.
Haven't seen it.
Because it literally happened when the year I was born. So like I've heard infamously about him my whole life, but I didn't know the full story. So I wanted to watch that. And then we've been really into Tom Green lately. So we watched his documentary, which starts about his early career and his coming up, which is again informative because I'm a bit younger than, the time of when all of this was happening. And then he also has a reality show about his farm in the Ottawa area, which I think is so fun. And
I always forget that he's from Ottawa.
Yeah.
Like I know it.
High school.
I'm not like.
And he's also an Algonquin grad.
Yes, I did know that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm talking about him like I know him. I don't. For the record, I don't know him.
I feel like any celebrity from the Ottawa area, like Sandra Oh, like we just know her. Like we all talk like we know.
Yeah.
But okay, cool. Last book you read? I know you said you're trying to get back into reading.
Yeah.
Or podcast you listen to.
Podcast. Okay, so again on the true crime, My Favorite Murder is a podcast I listen to regularly. There's also a YouTuber I really like named Bailey Sarian. So she has 2 shows. One is about dark history, so not necessarily murder, but like things like I don't know, the corruption in Cadbury or something. I don't know if that's real. That's just an example. Like, so the way she tells stories, it feels like she's your friend, and it also feels like that the history is interesting. I remember always thinking that history was boring and not interesting, but she finds these like niche stories that are really cool. And then her other one is makeup, murder, and mystery. So she tells a murder story while she's doing her makeup. But like, again, the way she tells the story, like it is dark, but she just tells it in like a more lively way, I guess.
Fun.
Yeah, I really like her.
Cool.
She's an icon. Yeah.
She's an icon. Okay. What or who inspires you?
Everybody. I feel like I'm constantly inspired by the people in my life. My core group of friends are girls I met in college, so we are all in the same career field, and that has been very helpful because we're transparent about salaries and goals and ladder stepping and who's doing what and mentorship. So like we do talk about obviously our personal stuff, but having friends in the same career at different companies has been super helpful, and I'm always inspired by them because they're always doing interesting and cool things. I'm inspired by my family. Watching my siblings become parents has been really cool to see, like just a different lens of them and how they approach things, and watching them grow. My partner, obviously, he's working really hard right now to get to our goals that we want to accomplish. People at work. I'm trying to see the light in people, and then I find inspiration. So,
yeah, everyone has a story.
Yeah.
Favorite meal?
Like breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or specific?
Anything. I think someone had like a favorite. They shared a favorite snack, but like, if you were hungry and you could have anything,
probably a toss up between like pizza or sushi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pizza's always up here.
Yeah, it's just easy. You can get it everywhere.
Yeah.
Like
a good pizza.
Yeah, like if I'm cooking something and it doesn't taste good, my partner was like, well, there's always pizza.
There you go.
Yeah. Thanks.
What advice would you give to your younger self?
Ooh, I feel like I'm just okay. Sam was saying this, and then I messaged her to say that I agreed with her. Some of the things that she was saying about like coming back into yourself and your confidence in your 30s. I wish I had been more confident in my teen years into early 20s. I think I would have made maybe better choices or different choices with like my personal relationships and maybe in my career if I had just been more confident. So I'm feeling it now, and I want to hold on to that and just be sure of myself.
Yeah.
You know, because I still find myself at work doing it. I'm like, oh, I don't know. And then someone's like, you can do it. I'm like, are you sure about that? You know, so
yeah, it takes time, takes practice.
Yeah.
And if you could have dinner with any person, living or dead, who would you pick?
This is so hard because there's so many amazing people and so many creatives out there. I think probably Brene Brown would be on my list. Also, Kris Jenner. Whether you hate that family or love that family, she is a business legend. She knows how to do business and make a lot of money. So I just think that she would be really interesting based on, you know, how she's raised her kids and stuff. So yeah.
Oh, good choices.
Thank you.
Okay. And then finally, around here, we have the Simply Connected playlist.
Oh, yes.
So I'm going to ask you, Meg, what song would you like to add to our Simply Connected playlist?
Can I give two?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the first one I think you'll like. It's called Gasoline by Taylor Swift and Haim, Haim. I think they're sisters, but I'd have to fact check that. Mm-hmm. It's just a really nice
Ryan's nodding. They are.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There we go. And then the other one, there was a 25th anniversary of What a Girl Wants live. So it's Christina Aguilera's song, but then in the live version, they also have Sabrina Carpenter on it.
Oh,
so
cool.
this is like the perfect melody, and like you know that she's one of those singers who like sounds even better live than recorded. So every time I listen to it, I'm like, oh, it just feels so good.
Okay, fun. Yeah. Okay, love them both. Gonna add them both.
Okay, great.
And our listeners can check them out.
Okay.
All right. That is all the time we have for today.
Okay.
But I want to say a huge thank you for joining me. I had a blast talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Hopefully it wasn't too rambling, but
you were great.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.